Okay, this video is going to be a bit of an experiment. I want to create a process. I was thinking about this YouTube channel and what kind of content I want to make for it, what adds value to you, the viewer or listener. Maybe you're doing the dishes or you're just watching on your TV. And I know that a bunch of you have reached out and that you would love to see my painting process from start to finish. But also, many of you have shared that you just love my thoughts about various things that I post online or when you talk to me in person. And so I thought I would treat this video as a bit of an experiment, kind of like a podcast. Let me know in the comments below if you like this. You kind of like me bouncing back and forth between talking about the artwork and then talking about another topic. But real quick, let me summarize kind of some of the things I want to talk about in the next 30 minutes. So I'm going to talk about this painting, obviously, this painting of the Kansas City Zoo, which is going to be my May print for the Kansas City Art Mail Club. I'm going to briefly talk about myself, kind of reintroduce myself. Maybe you've never heard of me before or seen my artwork. I want to talk about transitioning to being a full-time artist this year and how that's going, why I made those decisions. Going to talk a little bit about the closing of Painted Tree. I had 2 Painted Tree locations, and yesterday they closed down all the stores, so I want to give my 2 cents on that. And then if we have any time left, I want to talk about actually 2 things. One, the Hail Mary project, just some of my thoughts on that amazing movie. Spoiler alert, I think it's phenomenal and you should go see it. And then finally, talking a little bit about running a successful mail club, because I think mail clubs are a great way for budding artists to find some income and find their community and their niche of people. And I see a lot of people going out there trying to run mail clubs, but getting some core things mistaken. And I would love to just kind of give some tips out there to anyone trying to become a full-time artist or just increasing their side hustle of art. My art was a side hustle for about 5 years before I made it my full-time gig. But yeah, so this is a painting process video for the Kansas City Art Mail Club. It's a mail club that I founded here in Kansas City and about 7 months ago. I'll talk more about that a little bit later, but for this coming month, I selected the Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium. And so the painting that you're seeing me do right now is going to be the print for that. Now, a little bit about my process. I always do a really light sketch before I do anything else, just to make sure I have my proportions right. I'm placing things where I want them to be placed. I'm taking things out of the image that I want them to be taken out of. And I do want to acknowledge that you're going to see the video kind of focus on my hand or the pen and then focus back on the painting as I move it. In the future, I'm going to lock the focus so that it doesn't do that. So bear with me as things kind of go in and out. But the first thing I always do when I start one of these paintings is I will do a light sketch. I don't record that light sketch process because I do it so light, it simply does not pick up on the camera. And so I just kind of skipped that step and we went right to the inking step. Inking is where, inking is where for me, my art really starts to come out. So you don't really see any style when I do the light sketch. However, once I start putting down the ink, that's where I'm a lot more intentional. I'm shifting things, I'm changing things, but ultimately, I'm not trying to be perfect. I am just going over everything very quickly, very lightly, very intentionally. And I'm trying to decide what details do I add, what details do I omit. And then I move on to the painting section. And you're going to see me over the next couple of minutes here, just beginning to put down some light layers of paint, trying to get the overall color vibe. I love to kind of put paint down in one pass to cover all the white spots before I go back and start darkening up the layers. But you can just continue to watch me as I do this, adding in the road and some other details. But if you don't know me, let me introduce myself to you real quick. My name is Theo Davis, and I am I'm a full-time artist. I make storybook style art of Kansas City and the surrounding area. I've always been really artistic, and over the last 5 years, I've experimented with so many different genres of art. So if you were here with me in my studio right now, you'll see my watercolor stuff, lots of watercolor stuff around me. You'll see my oil paints. I have lots of oil paints around me, but you might be surprised to see that I also have a ton of acrylic paint. I have a ton of charcoal. I have alcohol-based markers. I actually just got a complimentary shipment of crayons from a company that just wanted me to try their stuff. So I'm still going to try that and make a YouTube video out of that at some point in time. But I'm an artist, and I love being creative, and I love being creative with different mediums. I think watercolor is probably my favorite medium, and I would say it's my primary medium. And then palette knife oil painting is like a secondary medium. But, so again, switching back to talking about this painting, you're seeing me just kind of putting down some basic colors. I'm filling in this stop sign, which for my mail club, I always write a letter to accompany the piece of art. So the letter is more than just information about the location, because it would be really easy, honestly, just to, go jump on Wikipedia, pull a couple of facts, and throw that into a little card or little fact sheet or whatever, and send that out to you as well. But I really, really value telling you a story. And so when I saw the stop sign as I was taking these photos, because I physically went to the zoo and I walked all around the front entranceway and took a variety of perspectives and photos, but this particular shot really caught my eye, especially with the stop sign. And so I'm going to incorporate that stop sign as a key part of the letter that I'm going to be writing to the Mail Club members, and I'm really excited about it. I'm actually going to start writing that as soon as I'm done editing and uploading this video, but you will have to check out the mail for yourself. I don't want to spoil anything, but the stop sign is important. Back to this painting process, you're probably wondering right now, and you've probably been a little bit puzzled, Theo, why did you paint all of the trees and the grass yellow? And that's a great question. It's because over my years of painting with watercolor, I've noticed that when you're painting natively, now this isn't necessarily going to come out through the print, but if you see the original with your own eyes, the original always looks a bit different because there's richer color. It's actual watercolor pigment. It's not just what's printed on with a regular CYMK printer. But what I tend to do is I layer the colors quite a bit. And so I like to put a bright layer of yellow everywhere that I'm going to add some green, because then as I go back over with watercolor, because if you don't know, watercolor is very transparent, when I actually layer some green on top of it, I'm actually going to get a whole new color of green, or a richer green than I otherwise would get. So that's one of the reasons that I go over everything with a single layer first, because then I can really detect and see what other colors I need to use in order to bring some stuff out more. So some color theory involved there, but we'll continue watching this painting. Next thing we're going to talk about is painted tree. Oh my goodness, I have so many things to say. If you don't know, last year, literally a year ago, like yesterday, or maybe it's tomorrow, I don't know. It was the middle of April. I opened my very first painted tree location up in the Northland of Kansas City at the Berry Woods location. And this was a gamble. This was probably my first big entrepreneurial gamble where I had done a partnership with Nebraska Furniture Mart on the Kansas side of Kansas City, and I decided to sell prints for the very first time. Up until that point, I was a bit of an original snob, and I was really proud of the fact that I had no prints. I only made original art. But I was realizing that if I wanted to ever really increase my revenue and be able to support my family better with my artwork, I needed to lean into prints. I needed to go into that realm of things. And so with Nebraska Furniture Mart, for my my second year there, I decided to break out some prints, and I was shocked. Like the first year at Nebraska Furniture Mart, I think I made about $1,000. I sold $1,000 in original artwork, which I was super grateful for. But the second year that I was with them and I sold prints, I made $7,000. And that is really what kickstarted my art career in a more serious way. And so from that, I realized, oh my goodness, if I can do prints and I can price them at an affordable way, and something else that I think is unique to me is that all of my prints come framed when they're in retail spaces. So I think it really benefits me because whenever you buy one of my pieces of art in a retail space, it is already framed, ready to go. You don't have to go buy a new frame. You're not having to make like additional trips. You can go to a retail space, buy it already assembled with a frame, ready to be hung for $29.99 or less. And I sold a lot. And so that's what made me want to get into painterly, to find some consignment space, because I've realized that, oh, my art connects with people well enough that I don't have to physically be present in order for people to purchase it. So I went to Painterly, I found a space. That was a whole process and ordeal because it was actually hard to get into Painterly back then. And it cost me $350 a month. They took 10% commission, and back then that was such a huge deal. I had never signed a lease with some other space that was not an apartment to rent or a mortgage. You know what I'm saying? Like it just took such a huge leap of faith, but I trusted myself. I trusted the process. I felt I really believed in my artwork, and I had a proven track record. So I went ahead, did my social media thing, because I feel like I'm decent at social media. I'm decent at all of that, and just leveraged every creative muscle in my body to make sure that my Painterly booth was spectacular, and it was. And I would make hundreds of dollars every single month at Painterly. Sometimes I would, like an average month, I'd probably make about $1,300 at my first location. $1,300 minus rent, so around $1,000, somewhere between $800 and $1,000 net profit, which was great. That was such a great little side piece of income, and that was going so well that I was like, you know what? Maybe I should expand to a second location. And so then I went 20 miles south of Kansas City to Overland Park, or 20 miles south of where I'm currently, where I live in the Northland. And I opened my second space, and so I had two spaces now. Overland Park never did quite as well as the one up in the Northland, but it was still super profitable, always made rent, always made plenty of profit on top of that. And then I moved over to Queen Bee in Blue Springs, so now I had like 3 physical retail spaces, and then Hallmark reached out to me wanting to do some consignment stuff. Hula Hoop reached out to me wanting to do some stuff. So it was just really great, kind of like getting my art out there, figuring out what partnerships made sense, what partnerships didn't make sense. But Painterly was always my bread and butter, and it was about 1/3 of my income, which is why it was about 1/3 of my income last year, which is why it was so devastating yesterday when I got the email at 11:30 a.m. that effective yesterday, all Painterly locations were going to be closed. Sales were done. Vendors have 10 days to get all of their stuff out of the stores, and no word on whether or not we will be paid for everything that we had already sold this month. And I had about $1,000 of sales already. I probably won't see that money, which makes me super sad. No word on if we'll get our deposits back, because they filed for bankruptcy, and I'm pretty sure that just makes it okay for them to not give us anything that we're owed. You know how the financial systems and all of that crap works. So it was just really sad. So I out of fear that the landlords or the owners were going to lock up the stores and not let the vendors in. I got in my van, quickly went down and collected all of my merchandise. So all of my calendars, all of my prints. I've got like, I'm looking over here in my garage, probably about 250, 300 frames that are stacked up that were in my Overland Park booth and my Barry Woods booth. And yeah, they're just going to sit there until I figure out what to do with them, or I'm just going to use them. I'm probably going to just use them for like my pop-up tent spaces because I have a couple of shows coming up in the summertime. But yeah, it's just, overall, it's just sad because paintry was going to be a component of my income this year. Was counting on that. But that's okay, because I think what this is going to do, it's not okay everything that Paint-It-Tree did, but I'm choosing to be positive about this. I'm choosing to look for the bright side, because I think this will help me refocus my business, help me not worry so much about restocking stores for a couple $100 a month, but learning how to leverage my week in such a way that I'm creating more art than I used to create, and bringing in more revenue, because maybe I'm pointing people to online, or maybe I'm doing some other things so that I'm not spending as much time restocking stores. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. So Paint-It-Tree, super sad. I'm just, I feel so bad for all of the other vendors, because so many people just haven't been paid for a couple of months now. Thankfully, at least my payments were going through up until this month, but we'll see. Anyway, switching back to this painting for the Kansas City Art Meal Club. As you see now, I'm coming back in and I'm continuing to add more and more layers, and suddenly the painting's starting to have some depth. I think a hallmark of all of my watercolor paintings, at least my watercolor paintings of the last year, is a particular color, and that is indigo blue. That is the darkest kind of blue color that you see under the zoo sign, on some of the light fixtures that I'm painting. Indigo blue is what I personally use for a lot of my shadows, and so that is kind of like a signature of a lot of my paintings of the last 12 months. I've just really fallen in love with indigo blue, and I like indigo blue because, in part, it's not black. Black, I think, just kind of dulls a painting, but people describe a lot of my art, like whenever I hear people describe my art, and I've actually kind of started using this in my own branding and saying it myself, but people kept describing my art as whimsical and joyful and just happy art. And I think part of that is because I just don't use black in my paintings. All of my shadows are a mixtures of purples or indigo blues, or indigo blue mixed with another color, but it's never black. And so my paintings tend to have a pretty vibrant color to them, even if it's a dark painting, even if it's like earlier in the video, I had some stickers on the side of the screen, and one of them was an evening or nighttime scene, but it was still really bright because I still incorporate that indigo blue. And what was that other color that I used? I think it was called Smalt D blue for the sky. It's actually a little bit more purple. Anyway, you can go back to an earlier part of the video and see that for yourself. But right now I'm just laying in some more details. Like, this is the portion of the painting where I'm like, okay, the basic colors are there. Now I'm going to go back over and just add all the details, kind of bring in the shadows, and just draw more and more out of the painting. So anywho, those are my thoughts about Paint-It-Tree. Really sad that that all of that got closed. Thankful to the Kansas City Star for writing another story and just kind of talking about my art in particular. So thank you, Casey Starr, for just pointing that out in my mail club. Really appreciate you guys supporting local businesses. Love the writer as well. And just so grateful that so many people have been reaching out and going to my website and purchasing some art or subscribing to the mail club. That just really helps my family, helps me to be able to just focus on creating art and not worry about like where our next mortgage payment is coming from. So thank you guys so much for that. Speaking of the mail club, I did want to talk briefly about running a successful mail club. This is really for the artists out there, but again, maybe you're part of the KC Art Mail Club and you're just kind of curious, like, man, Theo, how did you come up with this? How did you do all of this? And I actually get a lot of direct messages from organizations and from other artists like, Theo, how much money are you making from the mail club? It doesn't seem profitable. Or I'll get a lot of messages of mail club members saying like, Theo, this is worth so much more than just a like $8 subscription. You could easily charge $20 for it. And so let me just kind of share a little bit of strategy. I got to wrap this up in just a few minutes time, but let me just give some highlights. I think number one, when it comes to running a successful mail club, the most successful mail clubs I've seen are the affordable ones. So I know that mail clubs can range from anywhere from the cheapest one I've seen is $5.50. That's crazy to me that you can make profit off of that, but that's so low. But anyway, some people do it. The highest mail club subscription offering I've seen is $27, and we're still in the range of just a 5x7 envelope and everything that can fit in there with a stamp. Here's what I noticed in all my research after looking at hundreds of mail clubs before starting my own, is that the mail clubs that stick between the $5 to $9 ratio are the most successful by far. Because I don't know, I think there's just something psychologically when you're under $10 and it's a subscription. Everything's so expensive these days, we barely bat an eye to anything that is like $9 or less. Like, oh, it's only $9? All right, fine. Like, you can't even get a meal from McDonald's for $9 these days. You can't go to Five Guys and get a meal with a drink for $9. So it's actually really great value. Once I try and charge the maximum profit, and honestly, I think that's kind of the problem with a lot of American companies. We're always seeking out max profit, max value. I from the beginning, I was thinking scale, and so I wasn't thinking like, okay, if I can just have 50 subscribers for $20 each, that would be great. No, I want 3,000 subscribers for like $7 each or $8 each. And so that's why I charged $8 for my mail club, because I want it to go scale, and I wanted people to enjoy the experience and not have to question month after month, do I still want to be subscribed for $18? Do I still want to be subscribed for $15? No, I want it to be an afterthought, because you're getting some art, you're getting a sticker, you're getting a beautiful letter written by me and edited by one of my mail club members, and all for the price of a cup of coffee. And so I think that's been one of my things that have been successful, that have made my mail club successful. Something else that I think makes my mail club successful is just the fact that I do talk about it quite a bit on social media. I talk about the process. I don't just, reveal the art and say like, hey, sign up and you'll get this art. No, like I really want to take, for those who care, for those who are curious, you can head to my social media or here on this YouTube channel, and you'll see the journey. You'll see me teasing the upcoming location. You'll see me taking pictures and making videos about taking pictures of that particular location. You'll see these process videos, usually shorter for social media, 3 minutes or less. But now you're going to start seeing longer form videos of this. You're going to see the packing process. Like, there's a whole... there's all this, quote unquote content leading up to you getting this package, and you get to engage with it as much as you want. But you really appreciate it when you get the finished product in your hands in the mailbox. And so I think just that whole journey, that whole process really helps people to find some value in the mail club. And finally, the biggest thing I think that a lot of smaller creators, smaller artists struggle with is they look at the startup costs and they're thinking small. They're thinking like 10 people. You're thinking, 20 people. And so you're buying supplies based on that. But what you need to do, and this is the advice I've been giving so many people lately, commit to a full year of the Mail Club and then purchase your materials based on that. Because if you go out and you go on Amazon and you just want to buy 20 craft cards to mail to everyone, it's going to cost a good amount of money. I'm going to guess they might charge you 20 cents per card or 40 cents per card because, hey, you're buying a smaller amount. And, I don't know what the math is, but let's just assume you're going to have to spend $8 for 20 cards, right? But if you buy them in bulk, like I buy them 800 at a time, now I'm getting them for like 3 cents, 4 cents per craft card, or whatever the math is. I know it's less than 10 cents per card. And so you got to think scale. If you think scale, you will be able to get it to a profitable standpoint. So that's all I'll say about that. I do want to talk about Project Hail Mary, but I see that the video is getting ready to come to a close. So I'm just going to bring your focus back to this painting. And right now I'm just adding in some of the final touches, the final details. I've added some shadow. I decided for this particular painting that I wanted to do some splatter. And so I already filmed the splatter, and so I'm going to do a little bit more here in a second, but I just thought that would give this particular painting a little bit more character. Sometimes I do splatter, sometimes I don't do splatter, sometimes I do it so subtly you can't even tell, but this is the final product for the Mail Club, and so I can't wait to get this off to the printer, print 800 of them, 700 of them. We have about 750 Mail Club members, and so I usually try and get about 50 extra just in case, I need to resend some that got lost. Usually about 4 to 6 get lost every single time I send it out, but out of 700, that's not too bad. So I just kind of have those ready to go as replacements for people. I always tell them, wait until the 20th, because sometimes things just run late, even if you live in the KCMO area. USPS, things happen. But anywho, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this painting process video. If you like this kind of podcast format where I'm talking about not just the art, but also just some different topics, please let me know in the comments below. I'm hoping to make this like a weekly series that I'm doing, but maybe I'll shift and just talk nothing but the colors I'm using and that whole process. If you want to support me, or if you want to join the club, go ahead and scan that QR code you see on the screen right there. It'll take you to my website, and for the price of a cup of coffee, you will get some happy mail delivered to your door every single at the beginning of every single month. So guys, thank you so much for your support. Click that like button, hit that subscribe button, smash that bell, and all the YouTubey things that I'm supposed to say. But I am marching toward 500 subscribers. We just hit 300 subscribers. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week in the next video. Take care.